Well, a thrilling test match ends in a thrilling way, but unfortunately for India, they were just one wicket short of sealing victory, really. New Zealand, well, a nail-biting draw for them. That's how Sunil Gavaskar summarized it towards the end of that test match. They were the happier team, New Zealand, weren't they? Um, Going ahead, escaping with a draw at the end. Um, Look, okay, I'll start off first off by saying escaping right now is not the appropriate word to use. I should look for something a little bit positive for New Zealand because, in all fairness, they were stubborn in resistance, they were brave, and they did hang in there. There was resistance early from Tom Latham, obviously, who scored his second half century of the game. He was unfortunate to be out for 95, but he played a stellar role in the second innings with another half century. William Somerville, he came up the order at number three. Of course, he came in last night as a night watchman, and boy, did he frustrate the Indian bowling attack, hanging in there for 110 balls. He got 36 runs, but at the end, all that was immaterial. What he did was bat out 110 deliveries, and of course, Kane Williamson didn't get too many runs in the first innings, didn't get too many in the second either. But more importantly, he stuck on. He resisted as well, adding to that New Zealand cause. And towards the end, it really started unfolding, right? Last night, Ashwin got that breakthrough after India set New Zealand 284 to win. Ashwin got Will Young. Replays showed the ball was missing leg stump. Will Young and Tom Latham did not really review that decision. As it turned out, had they reviewed it, Will Young would have been unbeaten. However, they put it past them, and New Zealand went through a wicketless first session. India failed to break through in that morning session. Immediately after lunch, Umesh Yadav struck to remove William Somerville. Thereafter, there was a stubborn partnership between Tom Latham and Kane Williamson. And before Ashwin started the slide, getting rid of Tom Latham, slower ball to was that slower ball from Ashwin was the undoing for Latham, and then that stutter began for the Black Caps. Look, they were looking pretty solid at one stage. You could also sense that New Zealand were perhaps even going to go for the 284 run target. But obviously, the India spinners were brilliant. They were accurate. They did not give away any runs, and they were relentless in their pursuit of wickets. They slowed it down to the extent that by around T, you knew that they wouldn't quite go for the target. What also changed things dramatically for India was Ravindra Jadeja's strike on the stroke of tea. He removed Ross Taylor immediately after Ajaz Patel struck. R. Ashwin struck repeatedly. Jadeja and Ashwin towards the end, they were relentless. They were dangerous with the close-in fielders around the bat. Unfortunately for India, the Pacers did not quite come to the party. Umesh Yadav, there was a hint of reverse swing for him. Sometime during the afternoon session, Ishant Sharma got a little excited. He thought that he could exploit that those conditions as well. But just to Ishant Sharma was far from his best. Both Umesh and Ishant have worked very hard in home tests over the years. Umesh Yadav, remember in that 2016-2017 home season, extended home season of Test cricket, was just brilliant. But in this test match, India's Pacers were a stark contrast to what the New Zealand Pacers did. Tim Southee and Kylie Jamieson picking up a truckload of wickets. This was, of course, New Zealand's first drawn test in India since that 2010-11 season. So they had to wait for over a decade, to draw a test match in India. But and there were lots of heroes for both India and New Zealand. But the real heroes who made a definitive impact to this test match for New Zealand were Rachin Ravindra, another debutant. He batted out 91 deliveries, remained unbeaten on 18. But again, runs are not important because they were looking to save that test match. Rachin Ravindra, in fading light, played out three world-class spinners, R. Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, alongside Ajaz Patel, who survived as well, played out 23 deliveries. And the last wicket pair of Rachin Ravindra and Ajaz Patel batted out 52 deliveries, nearly 9 overs to save that test match. And it was a dramatic end, really. After every over, you could see the umpire checking the lights and Ajinkya Rahane imploring the umpires to let them continue for one more over here, one more over there. In fact, you could hear some of the players on the mic on the stump microphone as well. They were like, "Arey, we light to acha ho gaya. That the light has become better now. It has become brighter." But at least India were able to bowl those mandatory overs quickly. You could see the urgency in the Indian fielders. You could see the urgency among the bowlers. The captain, he was very proactive, had men around the bat, but they could bowl out at least they bowled the mandatory overs. But after that, the umpire said finally they said, look, enough is enough. The lights, the light wasn't good enough to continue play beyond the mandatory over, beyond the quota of mandatory overs, and it was New Zealand in the end who really had you could say they were the better team because Kane Williamson must have had his heart and his mouth with that kind of with the kind of performances from the India spinners. Lots of positives as well for India. Remember, they're playing the World Test champions. Yes, they're playing at home, but they were playing the World Test champions without six of their regulars. There was no Rohit Sharma, of course, no Virat Kohli, no Rishabh Pant, no Bumrah, no Shami. These five had decided to rest. Virat Kohli, of course, comes back for the Mumbai Test match. KL Rahul was supposed to play that series, but before the Kanpur Test, he was out injured, which meant Mayank Agarwal and Shubman Gill had to open the innings. Spectacular performance from Shreyas Iyer. He was, by the way, named man of the match for his innings of 105 and 65, becoming the first India men's batter to score to score 100 and a half century on Test debut. There was of course, he scored 105 in the first innings, 65 in the second innings. It was just such a scintillating effort from Shreyas Iyer. Runs under pressure. His runs came when they were needed. When there was such when there was such India had their backs against the wall. He became the first India batter to really score 100 and a half century, and that is a remarkable effort against the World Test champions. India were 145 for 4 when Shreyas Iyer was in the middle. He needed to build that partnership alongside Ravindra Jadeja in the first innings, and then 51 for 5 in the second innings. And had Shreyas Iyer not played that knock alongside and added those crucial runs alongside R. Ashwin and Riddhiman Saha, who knows? India might have been on the losing side. This was how critical Shreyas Iyer's performances were. 105 in the first inning, 65 in the second. Crucial partnership with R. Ashwin. R. Ashwin, of course, starring with both bat and ball through the Test match, as he has done so often. You have to now regard him as one of the leading all-rounders in Test cricket of all time. He's just come in there. He scored runs. He scored the hard runs. He's got wickets at crucial moments, and of course, he's also gone past Harbhajan Singh to now become India's third highest wicket taker in Test cricket. He is also now the leading wicket taker for India in Test cricket versus New Zealand. Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant from R. Ashwin. 38 runs in the first innings, 3 wickets. 32 runs in the second innings and 3 wickets. And Ravindra Jadeja, what can you say about him, right? He didn't get too many with the ball in the first innings, got a half century, got out for a duck in the second innings. Again, 4 wickets. And it just looked brilliant to see that those efforts. Akshar Patel, of course, a 5 wicket haul for him in the first innings, just continuing to impress is young Akshar Patel. 27 wickets in his debut test, and then 6 wickets in this game against New Zealand. And of course, some runs in that partnership alongside Riddhiman Saha. Riddhiman Saha, a word on him as well. He came back to the playing 11 after being dropped following that Adelaide defeat. He was just spot on with his keeping early on, but obviously he had to step away with a stiff neck. Kona Bharat impressed, standing in for Saha as wicketkeeper in the second innings as well. Riddhiman Saha kept wickets for 2 overs, and then Kona Bharat took over. At least you know now that Kona Bharat is just so good as a wicketkeeper. For those of you who've been following domestic cricket, you would have seen Kona Bharat's progress and his rise. But some of you who don't, you've now seen him on television, at least with his performances in this Test match with the gloves. Riddhiman Saha, kudos to him. It's a very difficult job being in Riddhiman Saha's position. You know you're not the first choice wicketkeeper. He had to be in MS Dhoni's shadow for so many years. Later on, he got his chances. He was a regular for a few years before Rishabh Pant took over, really, and made that position his own after the Adelaide Test match in Australia last year. He battled pain, he battled a stiff neck to score an unbeaten 61. Crucial runs there alongside Shreyas Iyer and Akshar Patel. But again, this partnership, now you will look back and wonder whether Riddhiman Saha and Akshar Patel could have really pushed for some quicker runs. By then, India were already, in a relatively safer zone. Shreyas Iyer and R. Ashwin had battled hard. Riddhiman Saha, along with Shreyas Iyer, had battled hard. Once that lead went past 220, 230, Akshar Patel and Riddhiman Saha, you could see they defended a lot. Um, it eventually exploded. It eventually upped the ante towards the end of day four, setting New Zealand 284 to win. But you knew a couple of things, right? You knew that light was an issue in Kanpur throughout those 5 days. You knew that getting the full quota of overs plus uh, anything over was going to be very, very difficult. Could Aksar and Saha at that point have accelerated? Maybe got maybe got a cushion of 25, 30 runs, and given their bowlers a few extra overs to bowl with. Who knows how it would have panned out had India managed to bowl, let's say, 7, 8 overs instead of the four they could manage last night. Remember, they struck, of course. Unfortunate as it was for William, did not review it on time, but India still had that one wicket. Who knows how it would have panned out had they bowled instead of 4 overs, let's say, had they bowled 8, 9 overs and managed to get a couple more or at least one more wicket. I mean, that was how it panned out, right? India fell short by one wicket to seal victory. That was, but at the end of the day, true connoisseur of Test cricket, true connoisseurs of sports, true fans of the game, you'd appreciate what a superbly thrilling game that was between two of the top teams. Remember these again: New Zealand World Test champions, India were the runners-up, and India for me were obviously they were the most dominant side in the first cycle of the World Test Championship, winning at home, winning against Australia overseas, and now India have started off well. They have a 2-1 lead over England. Of course, that final Test match is to be played sometime next year, a drawn test here, but you can expect both teams to come with their guns blazing in Mumbai. Mumbai probably would suit New Zealand a lot more because of the conditions. It would suit their pacers a lot more, and you could expect some of them to come into play really. For India, changes probably Siraj in for Ishant. I'd say Saha's fitness could be an issue. Maybe you'll see a debut for Kona Bharat. As far as that number four conundrum is concerned, what happens now? I know a lot of people have said Ajinkya Rahane gets to play because he's captain, he'll be vice captain in Mumbai. But what about Shreyas Iyer, player of the match? Do you drop Shreyas Iyer in the next game? Do you drop someone who scored 105 and a 65 in his debut test in difficult conditions when his team was in trouble? He's done well at number five. Ajinkya Rahane at number four. Virat Kohli comes back at number four. What happens? For me, I would not. I don't see Shreyas Iyer being dropped after this performance. I don't see Shreyas Iyer being kept out of the playing 11 after this performance. Virat Kohli coming back into the team to take charge as captain. That will be very, very interesting to see. But I foresee a couple of changes. I don't see I don't see Mayank Agarwal and Shubman Gill making way for anyone else, and there are no backup openers unless somebody suggested Chireshwar Pujara open the innings with Shubman Gill, and then Virat Kohli bats at number three. Again, those thoughts. Well, I mean, they've come from cricketers, former cricketers, and they certainly know more about the game than I would. But I expect a one change in Ajinkya Rahane really making way for Virat Kohli. It is that kind of performance that Ajinkya Rahane, despite everything, we have to say that over the last 16 Test matches, you go back right up to 2020 or even a little earlier for Rahane, up until 2018-19, Rahane's performances have not quite matched the expectations that he would come with. Yes, he's played some crucial knocks. Yes, he's played got that 100 at MCG. Yes, he was involved in a super partnership with Chiteshwar Pujara at Lords, but time is running out for Ajinkya Rahane, especially with the likes of Shreyas Iyer and others breathing down their necks. A lot of comments. Deepthi Bhaskar, lovely test match, but disappointed. Yes, as an Indian fan, you would be disappointed. I am disappointed for India. I'm an India fan of obviously before anything else. It was heartbreaking. We all had our, nail. We were all biting into our nails, but it was that kind of a test match. But enthralling viewing. Heartbroken for India not to be able to close that out. But like I said, there were several other factors. They could have attacked Will Somerville a little earlier with a few short pitch deliveries. They did not do that in the morning. Once they started doing that towards lunch, just before lunch and after lunch, you saw Umesh Yadav reaping rewards. Yes, Somerville would have played some of the short balls pretty well. He's a tall man, but I expected them to attack, to be a little more aggressive early on in the morning. Dr. Ray, Ravindra and Patel, two Indians. Well, yeah, they have Indian names of Indian origin, but they just batted brilliantly for New Zealand. We've already spoken about them. Very, very gutsy. And two debutants, both debutants really enjoying such a good time. Rachin Ravindra bowled a few tidy overs and he'd be very, very content. Yes, unlike Shreyas Iyer, did not get 100, did not get a half century, but I'm sure saving the test matches, batting out 91 balls at the end in such a high pressure situation, it would be, it would be worth its weight in gold, really, getting to that performance. Excellent I am is saying अगर श्रेयस न खेलता तब तो इंडिया कप का हार जाती. Well played India, bad luck. Absolutely, that's exactly what I was saying, that Virat Kohli, Shreyas Iyer's performances were just so crucial in the context of this game. Named man of the match as well on debut, so well done to Shreyas Iyer. Akshat Harchalkar, Rahane will start out the next game. Kohli should replace Rahane. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Pawan Pingal was captaincy also a bit unenthused with Rahane. It was a mixed bag for me. Rahane is usually a very sharp leader, very astute reader of the game. I would have expected a little. I would have expected him to be a little bit more proactive. Like I said, they could have attacked Somerville a little earlier. They could have had a lot more close-in fielders. Towards the end, you had Ashwin at backward point. Why? I mean, get him on, and that's what some of the experts said on commentary as well. Get everybody in and create more catching opportunities for the spinners. But again, Rahane hasn't lost a test match yet. So that's something that he would be proud of as his record as Test captain. Whether or not he plays in Mumbai, he's been very good as captain. But yes, some of the decision making in Kanpur wasn't spot on from Rahane. That one would have to agree. Probably it's also a fact that probably his form is also weighing in on him as well. He's not been in the best of form, and could that sometimes affect your decision making as a leader? Well, that could well be the case. But then that's that. As an Indian fan, thoroughly disappointed, gutted that they couldn't get that one last wicket to seal victory. But as a fan of Test cricket, superb advertisement for the game, superb advertisement for the format of this game. Just brilliant from both teams. It was hard work for both batsmen and bowlers in this game. Low bounce, not really, the ball wasn't doing anything dramatic for the spinners. There was no vicious turn, there was no invariable bounce as such. And for the batsman, the ball kept low and run scoring wasn't very easy. So if you're a new batsman coming in, you would have struggled on this Kanpur pitch. So kudos to the likes of Shreyas Iyer, Tom Latham, Will Somerville, R. Ashwin, Ajaz Patel, Ravindra Jadeja, Riddhiman Saha, all these batsmen who got such crucial runs, and the bowlers, the spinners for India, R. Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, at different stages of the match, they were just brilliant, and they constantly kept India in the hunt. And the pacers for New Zealand, Tim Southey and Kylie Jamieson, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy being a pacer on this surface either. So hats off to all these wonderful performances from two world-beating Test cricket teams. Absolutely great to see. And also to emphasize this once again, India were without six of their Test regulars. No Rohit Sharma, no KL Rahul, no Virat Kohli, no Rishabh Pant, no Jasprit Bumrah, no Mohammad Shami. That's like more than half the Test team, the regular Test team that India did not have access to. Of course, Virat Kohli will return for the Mumbai Test. And like I said, I expect a couple of changes, not one, but I expect a couple of changes for that Mumbai Test match, and we'll see how it goes from there on. No, both teams at least going into Mumbai with clean slates. Can New Zealand really create history with a Test series win in India, or can India bounce back from this disappointment and show the world why they're such a dominating Test side, especially at home? Well, we'll find out in a couple of days, and I'll of course join you back with more of our coverage on this Test series between India and New Zealand. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you with your comments. Um, Thank you for all your questions as well. I'll come back to you very soon. Meanwhile, please do subscribe to Sports Today and keep supporting us in this endeavor. Thank you. Have a very good evening.